Hello. So, part two to the other video. So, you know, you have a lot of people, landlords, doctors, nurses, these shelters, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Red Cross, which I know Blue Cross Blue Shield is health. Red Cross is like the service to help. Those animal, the animal shelters, there's corruption everywhere we go. Okay? But, excuse me, when it comes to your personal life, your livelihood, your day-to-day functions and operations, your voice is to be heard. Don't sit there and let people keep you silent just so they can keep manipulating you and others. I don't want to give credit, but I will give credit in this aspect as far as the devil. I encourage all of you guys who do know and who don't know, because we can always learn. He who knows everything knows nothing. The smartest person in the room isn't the smartest person. There's nobody smarter than anybody in that room. We all have knowledge that can help each other out. Like I say, you go into the grocery store, you go into any aisle. I always just use the bread aisle. You go down in the bread aisle, you see all the different type of breads, different brands, different textures, different additives, different things put in it. You may have, bread with walnuts on it. You may have bread with raisins in it. You may have white bread, wheat bread, honey wheat bread, so on and so forth. But brand, thank you, each brand has something specifically unique to them that keep people coming. So I say that to say, knowledge is power. I don't care if you're 15, if you're 45, if you're 55, if you're 75, if you're 85. The president is about to be 80. I could not believe that when my karmic mother and I were talking about that the other day. I'm like, wait, what? What? And real quick sidebar, when I say karmic mother, it's because there's a lot of things that she's hidden from me that I didn't know, and my father, but he's passed on now. I can still have communication with him, but moral of that story, because every story has one, rest in peace Auntie Sinesta, is that just because somebody gave birth to you, just because somebody is related to you, just because that is a doctor, just because that is a social worker, does not mean that there's not a higher source above them. And the higher source above all of us is God. So if anything, take it to God. Take it to the divine creator, the source, Allah, whomever you guys subscribe to. Take it to them and ask them, you know, ask them for clarity, wisdom, knowledge, all that, but also ask them to show you your enemies, and also give the vengeance to the Lord. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. you know and a lot of people think that, oh, my boss will cover me and stuff. Well, what happens when you take it to God, and then now God is coming down and tearing down your empire? Like, really? Really? There is a thing called justice and judgment, and that's what the real earth is about. See, a lot of us did not know. A lot of us were asleep and not knowing about the matrix, not knowing truly about magic, and the government really playing in magic. MK Ultra is real. Look at all the people, and I'm always going to go back to this because it's true. There's proof in the pudding. Look at all the people back in the day, especially like, before the 90s, in the 90s, the early 2000s, and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm 32, so do the math. There were people who were deemed as conspiracy theorists, and they were shunned out of society, unalived in the mental institution so they could unalive themselves, or the government can do it. Or like I seen somebody the other day, which is so true, and I didn't even think about it, and that's why, you know, my brother's wife was, mentioned it, and I didn't pay much attention to it, but now learning what I'm learning, I'm so for holistic healing. If God put it on this earth, and I'm not talking about the man-made medicines and stuff like that, but if God put natural remedies, herbs and stuff like that, and they have beneficial properties, right, to help us, help the earth, help us, right? Because when we die, what we put in, we're going to turn to dust and go back to God, right? Well, we're going to go back to the earth, but you can go to the doctor's office or the hospital, and I was so thrown off by this the other day. I was like, whoa. You can go to the doctor's office, and whether you know somebody who works there or not, they used to just, anybody who you don't like, or it doesn't even have to be you don't like them, they just don't like you, okay? They just don't like you. You smiled too hard that day. And they're full of demons, and they didn't like that. You know, your light irritated their demons. Now, they let their people know in the office, oh, I don't like Jaleesa. I don't like Jaleesa. She just smiled too hard. She was so upbeat. I just don't like her. Mess with her chart. Or you get admitted, and then they're messing around. And I'm going to use the example that the woman said. They're putting morphine mixed in with your chart. They're putting false things on your chart so you're being treated incorrectly. I'm sorry to tell you, there's a lot of your loved ones who they weren't supposed to go at the time that they were supposed to, that they did go. But because somebody in the hospital didn't like you, didn't like them, and this is not to guilt trip anybody because it's not your fault. I am just showing you the evil that's at play. And when you guys go back and learn about history and learn about magic and stuff, and learn about, you know, who were in these positions of power and stuff like that, who signed on, you know, signed their soul to the devil. And I'm talking about, you know, people who were within the Freemasons, people who were within Eastern Stars, who are people who are in these network secret societies, people at the church. And not every nurse, not every doctor, not every teacher, not everybody with a title and a badge or in high positions are evil. I am just speaking about the evil ones because we're getting away with them. Justice and judgment has started, but today is the day that God is smacking that gavel down, and he's just crying. In a sense, he's not crying because he's weak at all. He's crying in a sense for his children, or his children are crying out for him, however you want to look at it, because this isn't how God wanted it to be. God did not want us against each other for material wealth, for status, for fame. We all are celebrities in our own right. It's just that, unfortunately, the main stage celebrities, the ones who are getting paid millions, cajillions of dollars, a lot of them sold their soul to the devil to be put on that screen. But then if you look at you and I and people in our day-to-day life that aren't getting, you know, the notoriety that they deserve, they're a star in their own right. But because a lot of us are on a list, the government has a list, the blacklist of people who know too much, people who are very intelligent. Like, you think your IQ is something? Salute to people who have high IQs, but there's ones who are put out there, they put themselves out there, and then there's people like you and I who decide to stay under the radar because we know what's what. But there is no more radar. And that brings me to the FBI. Again, the other day I seen something on my phone. I don't have my phone around me right now, but I seen something on my phone that it was talking about, the FBI is encouraging people within the United States. And even if you're elsewhere, if something occurred in the United States, you do not have to put your information at all. You don't have to leave a name, a number, an address, an email, none of that. You just have to state the crime that was committed and the perpetrators. And I really encourage you guys, because the other day I said 100, but today I am 1,000% sure that working with the FBI in this case will help you. Whether you were gang stalked, whether you were mistreated by family, friends, landlords, organizations, schools, churches, businesses, put it in. And they talk about abuse of power. Like, if you go to the FBI's page, and it's like seeking victim information, that page, there's all different type of fraud that I wasn't even aware of. I was not aware of it. And it's always changing every single day, because the devil is clever. The devil's gonna come up with ways to, they talk about sex trafficking, people in abuse of power, cryptocurrency, investment frauds. And it's so funny that I didn't mention it because my house is wiretapped. So it's funny, I can say certain things and then certain things happen. So the other day, and I put this on my other videos because I don't want to be repetitive, but the other day, there was a situation with my karmic baby father and the second floor neighbor's wife. He came back, let me know, I don't need to entertain negativity and stuff. Shoot, the woman on the first floor, she has like a radio that everything I say in here is being projected in her apartment. Like, she's listening, like a police scanner or whatever. So it's just interesting that everybody wants to come at me now that I'm speaking out. But when I was quiet and everybody was, I was the energy pack for everybody, literally the world. And especially the city that I live in, and I'll say Massachusetts, the state that I live in, everybody was feeding off of my energy, and and now that I'm speaking out, because their magic is no longer working, because people do put death spells, people do put your name in a jar to keep you to shut up. So if you ever feel like your throat is clogged and you're like, whoa, even if you were sick and you're not sick, and I don't want to say phlegm in a nasty way, but if you feel like it's choked up with phlegm, or just choked up, like you want to say something but it's not letting you say something, more than likely somebody is trying to block you from speaking the truth. People don't want the truth to be out there, but the truth is out there. you know Even when, and I don't want to say too much because I don't want the karmics to do it to me and stuff, but it's easy to track anybody in today's age. Like, we're in 2025. We're in 2025. So whether you do something directly or indirectly, whether you're trolls commenting on things, there's always a way to trace back to you. There's always a way. And, you know, the good parts of the governmental branch and stuff like that, they're doing what they need to do. And I salute the good ones. I salute the good light workers and the grid workers, and who's putting a stop to corruption, because they've even been corrupted. Some of them are going into, their boardrooms, and they're getting their meeting minutes, their little memos, and they're kind of like scratching their head like, does 2 and 2 add up to 4? No, this is adding up to 3. It's 2 plus 1, not 2 plus 2. A lot of the governmental, agencies, people within the governments and stuff, they're realizing like, yeah, I signed up for this for one reason, but look at how you guys are manipulating people, and that's not where their heart is. I've had people within the governmental branch who approached me, investigating me. I fell in love with one. And that's one thing in my life. I always was like, I would never date a police officer. I mean, dealing with this branch is completely different than a police officer, but it kind of all falls within the same line. But to know that there's good workers out there, that's dope. Like, like, wife me up today. Like, I'm surprised, I'm surprised to see, you know, and I have faith. That's the thing. I had faith, but I didn't have faith. Now my faith has grown stronger. And with God, with the divine creator, with source, with the universe, with your spirit team, with the ancestors, with the archangels, whoever you subscribe to, with your spiritual hitters, anything can happen, good or bad. There's karma and dharma, and it's not a reward. It's not a punishment. It's just what you put out there. And that's what my friend says. Hello, mate. That's what my friend says. My spiritual brother. You know, um, and it's interesting to see the way how people play in magic and they try to manipulate things to go in their favor, all to hinder us, the people of the light. Or even if you're not into your spirituality, if you're not sure what that is, but you just walk upright, you're just a good citizen. you know you don't harm anybody, you don't wish bad on people, you do what you need to do, you make ends meet for your family, you deal with the cards that were dealt to you, you don't try to screw anybody over. There's somebody who's probably screwing you over, and it doesn't always have to be with the black magic, but I'm letting you know, a lot of these organizations and stuff, you think you're going to them to help with the light bill, you think you're going to them for health care, you think you're going to them, even your cell phones, just calling them, and not even saying like that, even though it's an Indian person on the other end, it really doesn't mean that they're over in India. It really doesn't mean that even America, just because they speak English, doesn't mean that that's really the representative that's supposed to be helping you. These scammers, excuse me, the devil has gotten so clever that you'll hit in your phone, call the numbers, thinking that you're calling who you're calling, but it's being rerouted to somebody else just to gain your information to then sell it on the dark web. There's not just scams for the elderly. Oh, do you want to donate to this organization or the firefighters, this and that? There's a lot of organized corruption going on, but I got 15 on the timer.